Welcome to Writer's Read. I'm Karen Loeb, your faithful writer in residence. And this will be a short program tonight. Only because we only have, I think, about 3 readers, unless Sue, you brought something? Oh, okay. And thank you, audience members who came to listen. And I was going to take a few minutes to announce upcoming programs, but Isa has told me they're in jeopardy. So I won't tell you them. Both Yvette Flatten and Lopa Basiv are going to give a poetry reading together, and they're been planning for it. So that will either happen in the summer or the fall. It will just be postponed. Yeah, I would think it is, although it's not official yet. And then in May we were going to have a big hoopla about the new writer in residence, a nice celebration and for the Writer's Read, and that also looks like it could be in jeopardy. I just don't know. The library might just decide to cancel the spring programs just so people won't be confused. So we'll see, but we would have something then later in the year to celebrate the new writer in residence. So I don't have all that much to announce. Are you here for the reading? Come on in. Are you going to read something? Okay, that's fine. We usually have a somewhat larger crowd, but this is it. So I'm Karen Loeb, writer in residence. So we'll have Ken Adler, Doug Pearson, and I'll read a poem or two, and then that will be it. So if someone comes in and wants to read, that will be fine. Ken, would you like to go? And then Doug, after that.
Well, I had trimmed this back to 4 minutes and 48 seconds, but I might just indulge myself and add a second or two onto this. For the past 6 years, I've been working on a historical fiction novel about the Mayas in the Yucatan Peninsula, mainly centered on in the city of Uxmal, which is in ruins now. And the story eventually gets up to the present day, but it's given me a chance to go to the Yucatan many times and really enjoy myself. This section is about an old Mayan priest named Gukumats, who is doing kind of the tail end of the planting ceremony for the community. And there is a teenage boy who has been hanging out with Gukumats. The boy's name is Muluk. I should mention that one of the religious symbols of the Mayas was a T-shaped thing they called the Tree of Life, which looks remarkably like a crucifix that the Christians use. Okay. Gukumats then bellowed out so loudly that everyone stopped. He was standing in front of the cross, facing the crowd with his head tipped back. Oh, why must we suffer so? All eyes were on him. He peered into the crowd. Look at yourselves. Look at me. Someday you will be as I am. All of my children are dead. My wife died 3 years ago. Why am I here? Oh, why am I here? Tonight we ask Chak to give us rain so that we can plant our crops. We implore Ixchel to ensure that the seeds be fertile and sprout and grow to feed us. But why? Why must we grow old and suffer? Maybe we'd be better off dying now and not having to see death trickle down on us over the years. Maybe we'd be better off not planting these seeds, but just staying home and watching our fate conquer us, eh? No, that is not what the gods want, and it is not what I want. There is beauty and importance in every action we take, in every child that is born, in every day that we give to each other. Yes, we will all suffer, but we will all dance and sing and enjoy our lives so much more than that. And so, again this year, I ask of the gods, I beg of the gods. At this point his voice cracked. He fell to his knees. Those near him saw his eyes well up with tears. Have mercy on us. Bring us the rains we need to grow our maize. His voice now blubbered. And accept this gift of fecundation. Wearily, he arose and lifted a large pot that had been resting at his side. He turned to face the cross and sloshed it with yellow-white maize porridge. A few men snickered, knowing that the liquid was a symbol for semen, but their wives hushed them. Gukumats fell prostrate on the ground and remained there unmoving, silent. A short while later, a quartet of drunken men, tenors, emerged at the south side of the plaza and bellowed out a bawdy tune. We thrust our poles and drop our seed, we cover up our noble deed, and when we all are done, my friend, we go and do it all again. So, may our seed forever grow. We can do it till we sleep at night, and then again in the morning's light. The crowd, men and women, joined in, repeating the song, louder and faster each time, and dancing provocatively. The children had no idea that their parents had abstained from conjugal relations for the past month. Mulek then surveyed the pavilion and spotted Gukumats, still lying at the base of the crucifix, face down. He rushed up to the old man, lifted his head and gently turned it to the side. Help me up, Gukumats groaned. This was the second time that night that Mulek had assisted the elderly priest from the ground. The shadows from the firelight enhanced the many creases on the ancient man's face. His grease paint had been mostly smeared off, and there were grains of fine sand on his forehead and cheeks. Mulek had never before noticed that Gukumats had significant jowls. Oh, my head hurts. Could you please bring me home? Of course. Mulek wrapped the old man's arm over his neck, and they plodded south, away from the pyramid, to the west side of the Pitts Court, and over to the row of rooms near the House of the Pigeons. Gukumats smelled of alcohol and sweat. They stopped at a tree to allow the elder to urinate. Mulek deposited him in the humble priest's quarters, a room just like his own, at the far end of the line. Instead of a thank you, Mulek heard a groan drift from the chamber as he made his way to his own abode. Mulek had slept late the next morning, and he rushed out, only to be greeted by a dreary, cloudy day. He hurried to Gukumats' room. Without his usual deferential knock, he plunged through the blanket in the doorway and sat beside the old man, who was barely stirring. Gukumats, I have something important to tell you. The elderly gentleman opened one eye and propped himself on an elbow. I have decided to become a priest.
Thank you, Ken. About 200 years ago, there was an English poet by the name of Robert Browning who was writing lots of poems, but the ones that stick in the mind most often, I think, for most readers, are what are called dramatic monologues. There's someone speaking, and you hear only that person's voice, but you know someone else is there, listening. And the best part about the poem is to imagine yourself the listener and what you're going to take away from this occasion. And usually the speakers are pretty arrogant types. They like to hear themselves talk. So there's this poem called My Last Duchess that Robert Browning wrote in 1842. And the Duke is the one who's doing all the talking. And he struck me as a character that I recognized in contemporary life. So I've written this poem, which I feel in some ways, I started it in mid and worked till late February this year on this poem, and then I've revised it a little bit in the last several days. But it feels to me like ancient history already, and I think you'll sense why. It's called The Wife, with apologies to Robert Browning. That's my wife, Martina, there on the wall. She's a beauty, regal, looks great in blue. just like my daughter Eve. Both models, you know. Evie, she has a line of clothing. The Chinese love it. They're really into her jewelry, too. She is the greatest daughter. Don't tell anyone. She also does mink coats. I'd go out with her if she wasn't my daughter. You know, I've had a few women in my time, all great. Really wanted to be with me, but some, they got clingy. I gave commands, and they were gone. Don't tell your boss, I mean the president, you know, this is a perfect meeting we're having. Everyone will say so. Here's my son, bright kid, eager to do well. He's gonna be great. He's not very good at golf, but he's only 12. Same guy, called himself Arturo, painted him as painted Martina. She was the greatest woman he'd ever painted, or said she was the greatest woman he'd ever painted. Loved her smile, the look she gave him as he worked. She was careless with that look. It went everywhere. Sometimes when I passed by the studio, I noticed that she turned toward him and held him steadily with her eyes, and he complimented her beauty. At first, I thought nothing of it. They were just friendly. But then one day, I saw him take her hand and place it against her thigh. And his hand, it just lingered there. You know, like it was his right to touch her and hold her. And she acted as if it was a normal thing, something they did every day. And I remembered that she was on page 2, that she was always touching others, a lot of the men I know. And they also gave her looks that she returned. I'm not very good with words, but you can see that I had a reason to be suspicious. She was pretty careless, and I had brought her fame, honored her, and given her the most luxurious life in the world, the greatest of all time. I'm not surprised that you are wondering what I did about it. I could have scolded her, told her that she disappointed me, that she could no longer expect to be supported. But to do so would have been weak. I gave commands. The painter was sent away to an island off Alaska, I believe. I keep the portrait in the hall. It reminds me that her smiles are frozen now. No one can enjoy her lively, casual gestures. I see through the paint to her disloyalty. Let's go to the dining room. I'm sure you will enjoy the luxury of this place. On the way, we'll have a look at the carved lion killing a hyena, a gift from the chief of our senators. Please let your president know that I'm eager to meet his daughter. He's well known for making deals. He can count on me to have his back in his next election campaign. I'm quite familiar with the world of hackers. Some of my Russian friends will tell your president that I am a guy who can be trusted. Here we are. Champagne?
These are two brand new poems, so, These are two brand new poems, so one is a reaction to things going on right now. I mean, it was triggered by things going on right now, which I don't usually do. I don't usually write about current events, but it's called 1950, so not very current, but back then, quarantine meant the health department came to your house and placed a warning paper on your front door, quarantine by order of the Chicago Health Department. The instructions followed about who could and who couldn't enter or exit. Measles, mumps, and chickenpox could trigger this warning. The victim inside was lying in bed or on a cot or couch with red speckles or itchy blisters or swollen cheeks. I had them all, by the way. While the world went on just outside, the milkman made deliveries, the butcher 2 blocks away sliced and carved pieces of animals, made packages of meat in waxed cardboard boats wrapped in white butcher paper. The bakery went on making cookies and bread, all while you, the victim, the ill one, floated on your sheets, alive with fever, not allowed to scratch or be in bright light, not allowed to go out and play, waiting for the day you could. So just thinking about quarantine, and I don't understand the idea of self-quarantine and self-isolation. It just seems so nebulous. So how do you really enforce that? And how do you make sure that people do stay away? I don't know. Well, anyhow, this one isn't about that. It's also new. I wrote another poem which I wish I had brought about in spring, how the couches appear on the curbs. But this one is kind of related to that, called Transaction. I didn't know you could throw away a mattress, that the rumbling truck would take it away on trash day. 2 college guys answered my ad. Double bed mattress, clean exterior, yours to carry out. I didn't mention it was 20 years old, that we had moved it from Florida. The guys bounded up the stairs, high-fived each other when they saw the tufted, striped behemoth. "This'll be great for you," one of them said. It was winning the lottery. For me, it was solving the problem of what to do with a cumbersome item most people would loathe. They had to bend it to get it down our awkward staircase. Outside, I saw there was no car or truck. They simply marched away along the sidewalk, the mattress wobbling. I could hear them laughing and shouting, and then I couldn't hear them anymore. And that's all.